listening to the home of cool, irreverent, and entertaining talk, right here on LA Talk Radio. You're listening to The Art of Love with your host, Lucia, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to The Art of Love. My name is Lucia. I'm your host and a dating and relationship expert. And I'm here to entertain, educate, and enlighten you about love, dating, and relationships. Take your live calls, answer your emails, and speak to authors of books which I find interesting. And today's show is for everyone. Men, women, gay, straight, black, white, because it's going to discuss something that is going to answer the question for the guys, why will this woman not date me? Why will she not sleep with me? Or why is my girlfriend no longer interested in me? Why is my wife no longer interested in me? And for the women, it's going to help them understand why the guys they thought they were so attracted to, suddenly they've lost their attraction, or a guy who they think they should probably be dating or even marrying, they just are just not interested. And I think this is actually one of the most important shows. If you're only going to listen to one of my shows, this would be the show. So I am going to bring on the author of this great book. He's actually been here before, and he's just so good. I had to have him on again. And it is, of course, Frank Kermit. Welcome back to the show, Frank.
Lucia, it's great to be back.
Glad to have you back. And, of course, the book is the Emotional Needs Analysis Workbook, which you may be thinking, what the heck is this book about? But you're going to find out how important it is in just a few minutes. So just a brief bio on Frank. B. Kermit is a relationship expert, the author of numerous books and audio products, and is the producer and host of the Frank Talks radio show. He also runs an online relationship advice forum, as well as Frank Advice columns in magazines and websites. So, after reading this book, I looked back on my past relationship with the guys that I dated, and now I can clearly see what went wrong and why I got turned off.
And that is the reaction that a lot of women have when they read my material. They say, now I know why I didn't want to date that guy anymore, because they couldn't put it into words, and they finally have something articulate that they can now justify.
Yeah, so I guess it's just our natural instincts that whenever guys are not fulfilling our emotional needs, we just cringe and we go, ew, I don't know, this guy's creepy, or I'm not attracted to this guy.
Exactly, and it also explains why you would be attracted to a guy and want to go out with a guy that logically wouldn't make sense.
Yes, like the jerks and the bad boys.
Exactly, because jerks and bad boys, for as bad as they are, can indirectly address a woman's emotional needs, sometimes much better than a nice guy can.
Absolutely. I've always said, because if you had to choose between the lesser of the two evils, we prefer to choose the one who appears stronger on the outside, and that is, of course, the bad boy.
Exactly.
So, okay, then let us go through the list of 10 things, and then I have some more questions for you about them, of course. So the first emotional need of women, and these are in no particular order. Is that true?
No, in terms of importance, they're in no particular order. In fact, this is one of the challenges, and that is, this is my list of 10 emotional needs, those that through my experience, I have found are most important, but for each woman individually, one is going to be more important than the other. And if you can figure out what her priority is, what her emotional needs criteria is, if you can figure out which ones are more important than the other and address those, you've got a better chance of making a relationship work with her long term.
That's right. And by the way, Frank's website is franktalks.com. Okay, so number one is protection of her most valuable asset, her reputation.
Most women, especially when they're growing up, they're not really in control of what decisions they can make and where their lives are headed. The younger they are, especially if they're teenagers, the more important their reputation is going to be. A bad reputation can make life very difficult for a woman. because women are judged much more harshly than men are judged. And I know that sounds really sexist, but this has been my experience. When a guy makes a mistake, well, it's okay, he made a mistake, he'll eventually figure it out. When a woman makes a mistake, it's almost like it becomes a label for her. As a man who wants to be with women, you have to make it a point, always protect a woman's reputation. You have to also remember that a woman's friends can always come to you and ask you questions about a woman's reputation. It's important to say it's not your business. Gentlemen, don't talk about those type of things. So, reputation, a solid reputation is a form of power, and you never depower a woman by hurting her reputation.
Absolutely. Okay. The next one is she needs to experience a range of emotions.
This is where men and women are very different. Guys need their quiet time because we don't have the internal mechanisms to support complex emotional patterns. Whereas a woman feels more normal when she has these different types of emotions going on all at the same time. When a woman is getting bored in a relationship, and boredom can kill a relationship.
Yes.
What's important is for the guy to give her an emotional range. Don't try to make her happy, because although happiness is great, it's only one emotion. You want to get a range of different emotions going on in there. You don't have to do anything so bad that she would want to dump you and end the relationship. But every now and then, if she's getting annoyed with you, if she's getting angry with you, that's a good thing because it keeps the emotional variety going. For some reason, it makes women feel alive. Men don't understand that because when we're experiencing all these different emotions going on, we just get angry, fed up, and just exhausted.
Right. Yeah, you're not, because you don't have as much of an emotional range as women. So for you, it's probably more of a threat to your survival. You're like, why am I feeling these emotions?
Exactly. Women get oxytocin released in the brain from a different variety of sources, different emotions, where you're going from intense happiness to intense sorrow and everything in between and back and forth. This releases oxytocin in the brain. Women get a high off that. This is why romance is so important to women, because they get an emotional charge from it. For a guy, there's only two ways he gets oxytocin in the brain: long embraces and sex. This is why romance is something a guy does so that he can enjoy himself, not because he enjoys the romance process.
Right. Okay. Number 3, cater to the little girl in her.
This is so important, and it must be addressed subtly. Every now and then, and this is so true, by the way, for women who now are responsible in careers, who are responsible breadwinners for the family, inside every woman is a little girl, a child. Sometimes all she really needs is to be held and told, it's going to be okay. You're still loved. If you're having a bad day, come on. I'm not going to listen to your problems, but I'm going to take you out. We're going to go have an ice cream sundae. There is something so reassuring for a man to just step in and say, the world isn't so bad. I will protect you. I will take care of that child inside you. Taken to an extreme, it's never healthy for either men or women to let the child in them take over. But for a woman, that child needs to be addressed. Once the child is addressed, once the child is acknowledged, that's when the child can go back and she can be an adult woman again, ready to experience adult pleasures.
I totally agree. Okay. Number 4, he must show dominance, and I'm sure you're going to explain that, including taking 100% responsibility for the sex in the relationship.
One of the things that scares women initially when they read my material is they see the word dominance and they think, what, has he got to be aggressive? No, he has to be assertive. That's part of being masculine, taking charge of a situation. What happens when a woman is in the position where she has to take charge? She ends up feeling like the guy's mother, and that will kill any possibility of attraction. This is why women who have been married for a number of years end up struggling, because they start feeling like their husband's or their boyfriend's mother. And no woman wants to be with her son. You know, just to give you an idea of the scientific backing on this, even in animal like a certain types of chimpanzees that will have sex with common relatives, the mother chimpanzee will never have sex with one of her male offspring. It goes that deep.
Wow.
This is why, if any time a woman is doing something where she starts to feel like the guy's mother, she feels a sense of resentment. The thing is that a lot of our society tells women, no, you got to be good to your husband, you have to do things for him. Well, Sure, that it's good to do some things for him, but when she does it to the point where she feels resentment, the love in that relationship is going to suffer because the attraction is suffering.
So then what can a woman do to avoid becoming a guy's mother?
Sometimes, and I know this is going to sound very anti-feminine, is to say things like, look, I'm not your mother. Do it yourself. If it's something that he should be doing for himself and that she doesn't want to do for him, then she should just say, I'm not your mother, do it yourself. At the same time, there's a lot of women out there who will say things like, I can't stand that he leaves his dirty clothes on the floor and she'll pick it up and throw it into the laundry. Well, if you don't want to feel like his mother, leave the clothes where they are. And I know this sounds like, yes, but she wants a clean house. Priority, people. If you continue to pick up after him, as a guy, we look at it and say, well, if she's going to pick up after me, there's no point in me looking after it myself. Mm-hmm. That's how we think. We're really simplistic. I do not leave the socks on the floor just to piss off my wife. I do it because, well, I'm just going to leave them there, and when I need them, they'll be there, and I know where they are. And when laundry day comes, I'll just take a walk around the house and collect all the laundry. That's how guys think. The energy it takes for me to get up and throw these pair of socks in the morning into the hamper, I'd rather be spending that reading the paper or processing the day to come. If a woman goes ahead and does stuff for me, even without me asking, and she starts resenting it, that's when she's doing something she shouldn't be doing. It's up to her to exercise some self-control and say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Now, what about making the guy a sandwich? For some reason, this seems to be important to guys. They say, well, I want a woman who's going to make me a sandwich. So should she do it then?
Okay, let's put this into context, all right? There is a difference between, let's say the guy is cutting the grass. All right, he's in the backyard, he's cutting the grass. He's doing something, he doesn't have time to make the sandwich for himself. So a woman who makes a sandwich for him at that point, in his interpretation of it, is showing appreciation. She recognizes he's not in a position to do it himself. Obviously, he's going to be hungry. He's doing some work around the house. He says, wow, she made me a sandwich. Look at the appreciation she has for me. I feel appreciated, therefore, I feel respected, and that respected leads to a bonding trust. That's for a man. What happens, though, if the guy is pretty much sitting on his ass all day playing video games? Nothing wrong with playing video games, but that's all he's doing, and he's so into the video game, he turns to his wife and says, hey, why don't you go make me a sandwich? Well, he could get up and make the sandwich himself. That's when I say, hey, she doesn't need to make him a sandwich. He's playing video games. He's on recreation time. He can get up and make his own fucking sandwich.
Whoa. Okay, now, what about taking responsibility for the sex in the relationship?
A lot of guys pretty much figure that, well, since the woman is the one who can get pregnant, then she's the one who should be worried about birth control and condoms and such. And I was lucky that I had a relative of mine set me straight on this right when I was young. He said, Frank, the man is responsible for the birth control. If she gets pregnant, it's your fault. You're the one who's got to make sure you got the condoms on you. You've got to make sure that, hey, find out if she has an allergy to these specific condoms, and if she does, go get other condoms. If you don't want to be a father, it's your responsibility to think about this. You never leave birth control up to the woman. In fact, you can't force a woman to take birth control because, I mean, there's a lot of health risks associated with taking birth control for some women. But you can say, hey, I'm going to go with you. Well, you know, let's be safe about this. You're going to go get birth control. Let me come with you. Let me encourage you. I can, if I have breakfast with a woman in the morning, and I know that every morning she takes her pill with breakfast, I keep track of that. That's my job. Why? Because if she gets pregnant, once it's in her body, it's her body. Mm-hmm. And at that point, the guy has no say. And I'm saying this as a guy. If I get somebody pregnant, she gets to decide what happens to her, because whatever consequences of that action, whether to have the child, whether to abort the child, it's her body that has the long-lasting effects of that action. If I didn't want her to be pregnant, I have to be responsible for myself and where, you know, my boys go.
Okay. All right. Moving on. It's number 5, but I think it's probably number 1, and that is fear of abandonment.
Fear of abandonment can become so important for some women. It can make up to 50% of the reason why she might choose a guy to marry. This is not necessarily the same thing as choosing a guy to date, but if fear of abandonment, and there's a biological angle with this because, of course, she can get pregnant. She could be stuck raising a child alone. So being abandoned is very, very important to a woman. In a number of cultures, and this is, let's say, maybe a couple of hundred years ago, before monogamous relationships became the norm, the idea was as a woman got older and could no longer bear children, families would be allowed to take on second wives to also continue propagating the species. I know that's, very, very, like it's a genetic analysis of it. But the fact is that women have a deep-rooted fear of being abandoned. When a man has fear of abandonment, he comes off weak. He comes off needy. He comes off less masculine. Mm-hmm. For a woman, however, it's part of their genetic cycle to say, hey, they can only have children up to a certain point, and since they're the ones who are going to bear the children, they better make sure that there's someone there to help them, to support them, to provide for them, especially during the months where she is pregnant and her mobility is limited, her health is going to suffer during that time. Some women, historically, a number of women died in the process of childbirth, and they needed help to be cared for. So fear of abandonment is very important for a woman. How do you make sure that a woman feels that you will not abandon her? You have to remind her what is unique about her to you. If you're going to date multiple people at the same time, addressing this emotionally comes into play when you tell each girl what she gives you that no other woman can. And that helps address fear of abandonment.
Yeah, in fact, this fear is so strong that for me it led to cutting off a guy that I was dating, just cold turkey, and not speaking to him again for a year and a half. And then the only reason I contacted him after a year and a half via email was because I had another guest on my show who talked about the karmic repercussions of dating, of ending a relationship karmically correct. And so I said, okay, that wasn't the right way to end it. And so I actually emailed him and apologized, but that was the only reason I contacted him, because just really briefly what happened was we were dating and he canceled 3 dates within a period of 10 days. Mm-hmm. And so by the time he canceled the third date, it was like, that's it. I didn't even bother getting angry. I just said, okay, no problem, hung up, never returned his calls ever again.
Well, the fact is, why should you believe that he would be there for you long term? He couldn't be there for you short term.
Exactly. Yeah, so he totally violated that fear.
Exactly. So, albeit, there are ways to end a relationship, but in that case, if he's violating your emotional need, it makes your actions understandable. Well, I'm not going to say they justify it, because I don't know the rest of the context of that situation, but it's totally understandable. You get stood up, guess what? You're going to figure, well, if I can't trust him at this level, I'm not going to be able to trust him long term. And sometimes you wonder, why did these two people get married? You look at one of the most unlikeliest couple, and you're trying to figure out, I can't understand what brings them together. Maybe the woman in that relationship has a fear of abandonment, and the guy, although he may not seem like a really cool and socially savvy guy, and you're thinking, wow, he's, what does he really have going for him? Maybe he's the type of guy that when he makes a commitment and he makes a promise, he sticks it out, and he's not going to go anywhere, and she knows that. That could be very reassuring for some women. If fear of abandonment is very important to a woman, those types of things become important to her.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, moving on. Number 6, trust him to be honest even if it makes her mad.
One of the things that women are used to, and this is just one of the realities of women, is that people will constantly lie to them because they don't want to upset her. Why are so many people lying to them? Well, if it's a guy, it's usually because he wants to get into her pants. Mm-hmm. So he'll say things like, no, I don't want her to be angry with me. I want her to like me. So he'll tell you everything you want to hear. This makes it so difficult for a woman to ever develop a strong sense of trust with anybody. When I used to dress up like a pimp and go out to clubs, I got the experience of people coming up to me, and during the street festivals in Montreal, I had strangers come up to me wanting to take their picture with me just because of the way I was dressed. They figured I must be a somebody. Oh. And I got so much attention that I said, this is what it's like for a beautiful woman. She's constantly getting approached. She's constantly getting attention. And most of those people who approached me, they didn't give a damn about me.
Right.
All they cared about is the image I was projecting. They couldn't give a damn if I lived or died. And when you're getting all this insincere attention, it leaves you very, very jaded in terms of how well you're going to trust other people. And I only did that for a number of months as part of an experiment. Just to imagine having to live like that all the time, where everybody around you is someone that you can't really trust because you don't know if they're with you because they care about you or just because of what you have.
Right.
This is why one of the things I used to do during especially my harem management days where I was dating multiple women at the same time, I would sometimes start a fight in the first date just to let them know that I can get angry with them if I misinterpret something that they say. It lets them know that I'm not afraid to make her upset if I'm being honest with her. Here's a beautiful element of this. Let's say I'm honest with a woman and she gets upset. She's not likely to stop seeing me just because I made her upset with the truth. If anything, not only have I addressed this emotional need, if she's getting upset, that's also giving her emotional range for emotional need number 2.
Ah.
It's a double whammy.
Okay, so then you're saying that if a woman says, do I look fat in this dress, whatever, you're supposed to say yes?
You're supposed to be honest.
If she looks fat, yeah.
If she looks fat. I mean, if she looks great, you tell her, no, honey, you look great. You don't lie to her to get her angry. You don't lie to her to hurt her. But if a woman is saying to you, hey, do I look bad in this dress? Do I look fat in this dress? Be as honest as you can. Because the fact is, she needs to know she can trust you. And the low quality guy is thinking, I don't want to make her cry because I can't handle her tears.
Right.
The high value man is saying, if it was me in that situation, I would want someone to be honest with me. And I'm going to be honest with you. Now, if you're not happy with the truth, I can understand that. And then you're going to go and you're going to put on something else or try to change it. If you come back to me and say, I can't believe you would say that to hurt me. You're so mean. You're a jerk. That's when I know I'm dealing with a low-value woman. Don't ask questions don't ask her the truth if you can't handle it.
Right.
Because with me, you're always going to get the truth.
Good. Okay. Moving on, we have number 7, her physical protection and safety.
Now, her physical protection and safety, even a woman who is a black belt in karate still wants to be with a guy who says, no, my dear, you walk on the inside of the curb just in case a car comes barreling down the street and decides to, hit somebody on the outside of the sidewalk. They'll hit me, not you. Now, she doesn't need him to protect her. She can protect herself. Mm-hmm. But the idea that he would look out for her is very reassuring for a woman. It's not about the guy who can throw the punch. It doesn't have to be a guy who's muscular and and buff. It's about a guy who's willing to take the hit. Sometimes speaking out in public and calling some other guy who's behaving badly towards your woman, even if you go in there and say, yeah, of course I could get beat up, I'm still going to say something to this guy to let him know this is inappropriate. It doesn't matter that your guy is not physically strong. What matters is that he's willing to take the hit in order to protect her.
Okay, got it. Number 8, can he handle her sexuality, whatever it may be?
I learned this from a woman who was a former swinger, and she was the person who introduced me to the world of swinging. By the time I'd met her, she was married, she had children, and her husband had no idea about her sexual past, had no idea that she was bisexual. And I just remember thinking, wow, obviously it wasn't that important to her, but because, other things were important to her at that time. She was older. Fear of abandonment was a big one, and she found a guy who would never leave her. That was really important. But the fact that she couldn't share that part of her life with him made me realize it's important for a guy to be able to handle the sexuality. He doesn't necessarily even have to take part, but he's got to be open enough to hearing about it. You can't judge her and say, wow, what a horrible person you are. He might say, I don't have the same values. I don't want the same type of lifestyle. But a woman will only be as wanton with a guy if she assumes he can handle it. And this doesn't mean that we're not talking about women who are just sexually experienced. We could be dealing with a woman who's a virgin. Can you handle the fact that she's a virgin? Can you go at her pace? If she wants to try something that she's never tried before, can she trust you to create a situation to let that happen? If she doesn't believe that you can handle her sexuality, she's going to hide those parts of herself. But at some point, sexual orientation cannot be denied. Sexuality cannot be denied. It's going to come out in other ways. And it's better that it's with you, her partner, than someone on the side because she doesn't think her partner can handle it. Right.
Okay, number 9, does he have, and I think this should be number 2, does he have sought-after high-quality sperm?
High-quality sperm, this is basically a catch-all category. Some women put a high emphasis on high-quality sperm. This covers everything from his social skills. Does he have friends? Does he have a good job? Does he dress well? Does he, has he earned any sort of accolades in his life? Can he make a living? Does he have the money to support a family? All of those things factor into high-quality sperm. The best way to prove that you have high-quality sperm is to show that other women are into you. It is the best way. So let's say you go up to some girl, you ask her out on a date, and she says, no, I really don't want to date you. I think we should just be friends. Okay, says the guy, what should he do? Should he try to figure out how to ask her out again? No. He should go out and date somebody else. And at some point, that first girl is going to see this guy with another girl. And that's when she says, uh-oh, did I make a mistake? Maybe I should have gone out with him. I have been able to use this to make women who initially rejected me decide that, maybe they should give me a chance.
So is this why women get so competitive with each other?
Well, women will get competitive for a number of reasons. One of them is if they see a guy that's already with a woman, they figure, wow, if that girl wants him, I must want him too. And some women will naturally want to compete. Other times, women will compete for nothing more than attention, and that comes into drama, where, let's say she doesn't even like a guy, but her friend likes that guy. So she says, oh, I love the drama that I'm getting from competing with my friend and then trying to get this guy to be with me behind my friend's back. One of the things I teach women is beware your friends. Okay, I teach men, beware your mentors, because your mentors can sometimes steer you down the wrong path. For women, I teach them, beware your friends. Being the guy that a lot of different liked at the same time. Sometimes I was in a situation where a female friend would want to make a pass at me, and I would say, well, look, I'm dating your friend. Oh, but, this is just between us. And if I was not in a situation where I was in an open relationship or I had certain rules with that girl, like, well, look, we can both see other people, it was really surprising for me how often that would happen. It's sad, actually, because I can understand why women have a harder time trusting women. And it's because women aren't going after sex. Women are going after the attention.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Do you think that women need attention more than they need sex?
I think that women get more from attention than they do for sex. So now I'm going to try to explain this from a male perspective, all right?
Yeah.
From a male perspective, if I'm getting lasagna, which is my absolute favorite food, but I'm getting it every single night for dinner, I know when I get home, lasagna will be waiting for me. I'm not going to get that much out of it because it's readily available. Sex for women is just like lasagna for a man.
Right.
Sex is readily available. If a woman decides, I feel like having sex tonight, she can go out to the club, and at some point, some guy is going to approach her, and if she likes him enough, she can say, okay, I'll go home and I'll have sex with him. Sex for women, it's not something they have to work for. It's something they just have to choose amongst the selection that's offered to them. So for women, sex isn't as important as the attention they get, because the attention is where their power lies. The fact that they have so much to choose from. The more attention they get, the more selection they have. Because women are generally not encouraged to do the approaching, they're not encouraged to be the ones giving the sexual attention. They're encouraged to be pretty and receive the sexual attention. They have to arrange it so that they're constantly receiving attention in order to have the best of the selection. Guys, on the other hand, are told, no, you can't expect women to chase you. You got to go after it. So the positive of that is he can go after any woman he wants. He might get shot down, but he has that freedom of choice. When a woman starts becoming aggressive and starts going after the sex that she wants, not only will society often stigmatize her for it, but some guys, when they're getting hit on and having a woman be aggressive with them, they don't know how to handle it. They might just not have the emotional stability to be able to handle a woman who is sexually confident.
Wow. Great explanation.
Thank you.
Okay. And finally, number 10, prove he's not a closet homosexual.
This applies really for first world nations. And here's why. A lot of the men, in order to become more sensitive, have adopted behaviors and emotional needs even that might that cause them to behave the way we would have associated the behavior of a homosexual male. Now, I'm going to give you a real clear example of this one. Some guys love drama. I've actually had, some of the guys who come to me, part of my clientele, if I'm dealing with an adult-aged virgin, he says, I get off on the drama. I log on to Facebook, and I see some of the drama between the discussions, and I go onto this forum, and I just read what's going on, and they're getting off on the drama. Well, that's very feminine of them, but that's probably what contributes to them still being a virgin. These type of behaviors will be interpreted by a woman as saying, well, is he a heterosexual guy who loves drama, or is he really gay? Being gay has become much more acceptable. In Canada, here, gay marriage is legal. So it's on everybody's mind, well, maybe that person is gay, and that's okay. A straight guy who's constantly thought of as, well, maybe he's gay. How many women do you know want to date a man who might leave her for another woman?
None.
Now, how many women do you know would date a man who might leave her for another man?
None.
Thank you.
Okay, good. We addressed that one. All right, now, you said that when a man has sex with a woman, he satisfied all 10 emotional needs.
Mm-hmm.
How is that?
The act of sex can address all 10 emotional needs at the same time. That's why sex is so important. It's one of the most effective and efficient tools to address emotional needs. Let's look at a situation where the nice guy can't get the girl. Then one day, the girl is going through something. She just broke off with her jerk boyfriend. She invites the nice guy over. She figures, maybe I ought to try a relationship with the nice guy. And it comes down to sex. They're at the moment about to have sex, but the nice guy says, no, we can't have sex. I have to show her that I respect her. All right, we can't have sex. I'm not ready yet. I'm too nervous. Well, basically, she feels rejected. He did not have sex when it was time to have sex. If he did have sex, he would have addressed her emotional needs. So even if he had made some screw-ups along the way, having sex at the end of the night pretty well reinforces and fixes the mistakes that were made earlier. But when a guy does not have sex with her, she's more likely to return to that jerk of a boyfriend. And the guy usually doesn't understand why. But I was so nice to her. I never treated her like that. I wouldn't have sex with her when she was crying and clinging to me and hugging me and kissing me. Yeah, guy, that's part of the problem.
Okay, now what if the sex is bad?
Bad sex or good sex. If it's the first time you have sex, it's okay. You can afford it to be bad. You got to understand that even bad sex, once the penis enters the vagina, it still counts as sex. There is a psychological effect that happens. This is why it's easier to get back together with somebody if you've already had sex.
I don't know if I agree, because, I had sex with someone once, and after it was bad. And after like the third time, I was like, I can't take this anymore. Okay,
well, the first time you had sex was bad, but you still went back and tried it again, right?
Well, because I said, okay, let me see if he improves.
Exactly, because you figured the first time you don't know if your bodies are going to fit well together, you don't know if you're going to gel, you don't know if there's going to be right energy. But by the second or third time, you would expect to say, okay, we've gotten over the first hurdle, we've had the first time sex. Now let's explore each other, now let's learn about each other's bodies. Most people, after they have sex that first time, want to learn more and say, okay, now how can I make it even better this time around? I have a product called The Rules for the First 10 Times You Have Sex with a New Lover. And one of the things I teach in that program is how to make the first 10 times you have sex so interesting and so different from the other 9 times you have sex for the first time with a new lover, that it creates a sense of variety and learning about one another. Let me put it to you another way. You went as far as having sex with the guy 3 times before you finally said, okay, this guy's not satisfying me. But the fact is, you gave him 3 times at bat. You gave him 3 auditions.
Right. 3 strikes.
He didn't get the job.
No.
Okay. Now, what if the first time was sort of lousy because you figure, okay, well, it's our first time. We might have been both nervous. But the second time, he tried something different, and he was asking me what I liked, and he was telling me, he was leaving his ego at the door, and I was saying, well, I like this better, and he was willing to do that. Would you have continued to see him at least a third time?
Yeah.
Okay, then he gets there the third time, and the third time, okay, now he's taken everything that he's learned about you, and he's trying something new, and he's looking to learn all about your body. He's exploring the different sensations for your skin. He's trying to incorporate new ideas. He wants to keep things interesting. Would you see him a fourth time?
Maybe.
Okay, well, listen, when sex is really, really bad the first time, you got to remember that, hey, two people who are very new at it with each other, very new at each other's bodies, it may not be the greatest sex, but as long as you have sex and you like the person enough, they'll get the second audition, they'll get the third audition. Now, for some people, sex is really important. It might be one of the most important emotional needs. Let's say it's a person that has a particular sexual fetish. Okay, let's look at foot fetish. All right, it's a pretty benign sexual fetish.
A lot of guys have that.
Well, a lot of the guys you've dated?
No, and also a lot of guys in general, I find.
Oh, okay. When I've gone into the world of BDSM and fetish, there's always been a small circle of them who have been into feet, but it was never in the majority, at least in the people that I've met. But then again, I'm not a woman and I don't get approached for my But let's look at foot fetish, right? Let's say two people are dating and one of them has a foot fetish, whether it be the guy or the girl. If the person that they're with really isn't interested in indulging that foot fetish, that person ceases to feel normal. They cease to feel loved and accepted. Sex for that person as an emotional need would be pretty high up on their hierarchy. Then you got those people where sex is really not that important to them. They have a really low libido. Maybe they have incredible guilt issues stemming from their upbringing regarding sex that, if they have sex once a week, it's too much. Well, for them, sex is not going to be that important, good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So although sex is important for some people, you have to remember that it's going to be at a different degree of importance with each person individually.
Okay. Now, speaking to one of the emotional needs about the need to feel special, although that's not how you worded it, which emotional need would that be?
The need to feel special?
Yeah.
The result for a woman is that when you address all of the emotional needs, the result is that she feels special. Once she feels special, she can have feelings of attraction, and that could lead to sex and even to deep love. So if I protect your reputation, Lucia, on some level, you're going to feel that you're special to me.
Mm-hmm.
If I can give you an emotional range and I can handle the emotional range that you need in order to feel normal, you'll end up feeling special. Or I should say, you'll end up feeling that you are special to me.
Mm-hmm.
I cater to the little girl in you, and I say, Lucia, you've had such a rough day. You've been working so hard. Here, I'm going to give you a hug. I'm going to take you out to Dairy Queen. I'm going to buy you a sundae. You're going to feel that you're special to me. Mm. If I'm dominant and I say, Lucia, you've been working so hard, stop. You're not my mother. Stop mothering me. I'm taking over tonight. Tonight I'm taking you out, and we're going to go to we're going to have a nice quiet picnic in the park under the moonlight. And I'm bringing a bottle of wine. You don't have to take care. You don't have to think of anything. Go shower. Just go make yourself look good, feel good. Go put on that sexy underwear. Now, basically, I've just told you what to do and not to think about anything else, and I'm going to take charge of it.
Mm.
A guy who does that for you will obviously make you feel you're special to him. Why else would I put in all the effort?
Right.
If I say something to you like, Lucia, you are the only person who understands me on this level. There's so few people that I can connect with like this and have this wonderful flow of communication. I never want to lose that. Now I'm addressing fear of abandonment.
Mm.
Because I'm letting you know that you offer me something that I can't get anywhere else.
Okay.
Now, with you specifically, you have an Italian background, right?
Yes.
I have an Italian background, too. So I could throw that in and say, not only do we connect on these topics and have a wonderful flow together, but how many people can I do that with who also have the same Italian background as I do?
Right.
Now you feel even more special to me. And fear of abandonment is addressed because I said that this is something that I never want to lose. Now, I continue to go down the list. You end up feeling that you're very special to me. What happens when a guy addresses some of the emotional needs, but not all of them? That's the guy that becomes the emotional cookie man, the male friend, where the girl says, I like you, but as a friend.
Yes.
Translation, he addresses some of the emotional needs, but not enough of them to make her feel that she wants to have sex or fall in love with the guy.
Right. And in fact, I have a quote for you that I just saw this week, and it's so perfect for what we're just talking about. And here it is. How can a woman be expected to be happy with a man who insists on treating her as if she were a perfectly normal human being?
Exactly. Because that sets the expectation for her to be mommy. The only woman that's ever going to be perfect to any man is his mother. No matter what she does wrong, no matter, whatever mistake she made, oh, she's mama. Mama is perfect. You don't talk bad about the mama. Father, you can talk bad about. Brothers and sisters, you can talk bad about. Sisters, well, depending. But mama is perfect. And if I'm going to look at my wife or my girlfriend and say, oh, you're perfect, just like that, I'm putting her in a category where she has to feel like a mother and live up to that, where she cannot be flawed. She can't make a mistake. She cannot let go. She can't say, Frank, take over, for God's sake. She doesn't have the little girl in her to cater to because she's perfect. When, in fact, every woman, especially the more career-oriented women, they're the ones who very little can they ever show that inner girl in her. And it's up to a guy like me to go in and say, no, I know you're a power woman. I know you're a power feminist and a career girl. But deep down inside, you're a little girl like everybody else who just wants to be held and told it's going to be okay.
Right. Okay, now what are some signs that would put a man in the low-quality sperm category?
Okay, here, let's start with some of the basic stuff. First of all, he doesn't take care of his appearance at all. And this covers everything from a guy who refuses to go to the gym to a guy that has very poor hygiene. Maybe he's a guy that's not, he's not in buff shape, but he can still be clean. He can still smell good. He can still take care of his appearance. He can still shave and keep his hair neat. Maybe he's just got some good genetics. He was born with, very attractive eyes. It could also be things that he's earned. Maybe it's the type of guy that tried going to school but dropped out, so he doesn't have a degree to his name. Other things is he can't hold a job, and he keeps going from job to job. And instead of trying to set up a business for himself, he just pretty much, goes with the flow. Those are some things that would identify a guy as having low-quality sperm. One of the telltale signs of a low-quality sperm guy is that other women are constantly creeped out by him. If other women are creeped out by him, the first question is to ask why. Yeah. Is it because the guy is into something they're not? Maybe the guy is just really, really open about certain ideas and certain types of relationship structures, and that scares off a woman who maybe has religious ideals and she doesn't agree with that. Maybe the guy just doesn't know how to be charismatic. Maybe the guy does things like hurts people's reputations by constantly talks bad about people when he should know better. Maybe the guy is doing something that's illegal that, and he's so vocal about it that it turns everybody off. Maybe when he really likes a girl, instead of trying to approach her in a manner that will make her feel wanted, he approaches her in a manner that creeps her out and says, oh my God, the way this guy approached me just embarrassed me in front of a bunch of strangers here. Why would I want to be with him? Mm-hmm. So the clearest answer is, if other women are creeped out by him, chances are he's a low-quality guy with low-quality sperm.
Okay. And then you said also, when a man is needy, he violates a woman's fear and abandonment. How does he do that?
Okay. Most people think that a guy who's really, really needy would address a woman's fear of abandonment, because you figure, well, a really needy guy would never leave her. You got to understand that unless he's with her because there's something unique about her to him, then he could leave her for the next person he thinks is going to stick with him. Boy, oh boy, I'm so needy, and I got to be with a girl. Oh, look, there's a girl. First girl he sees, he approaches her. I will love you forever. I will never leave you. I will stay with you. Because he's just so afraid of being alone. So the girl says, fine, and she takes him because she figures she doesn't have any other options. She can never rely on that guy to stay with her. Because that guy, as soon as he senses, oh, wait a minute, maybe this girl's not going to like me anymore. Oh, look, there's another woman who's even more pathetic. Yeah, she'll never leave me. So he dumps the really good girl that was willing to give him a chance and goes after the other girl who he feels is going to be a much safer bet to stay with him.
Okay, so that's why guys shouldn't ever act needy, like saying things like, "Oh, why didn't you call me back?" or "I don't think you like me," or "What's going on?" They shouldn't be asking those things.
Let's put this into context. If a guy says, "Why didn't you call me back?" If it's something that she said, "Oh, listen, I'll call you on Thursday," and then she doesn't call on Thursday, and he says, "Hey, I was waiting for your call." That's not being needy. Mm-hmm. That's saying that's holding to somebody to a certain level of standard. Saying, when I promise something, I expect that someone is going to follow through. That's a standard that I have in terms of how I want to be treated. Mm-hmm. But when the guy says, "I don't know why you love me. Why do you love me so much? I'm nothing special." Because at that point, she has to go into mommy mode. Okay? And this is something I teach guys, and that is, because of the way nature works, guys don't have a biological clock. So even if he can't get women in his 20s and in his 30s, if he puts his mind to it and he changes his life, by the time he's 40, he can still start a family if that's something he wants to do. He doesn't have that biological clock. He's not allowed to ever fear abandonment. When he goes into work, he can't constantly go into work thinking, "Oh my God, what if I get fired today?" Because it's those type of behaviors that make people want to get away from him anyway. As a man, and this is one of the suck deals of being a man, you're never allowed to fear abandonment. If you lose everything today, if you lose all your friends, all your family, if everybody turns their back on you, you still have to be able to continue marching on, continue walking on. Yes, you're allowed to feel bad. You're human. Are you allowed to let it affect you and to make these type of needy type decisions? No. You still got to go ahead and be willing to stand on your own. Because as long as you have that, you have your inner strength. That's what's attractive. The minute a man starts saying, "Please don't leave me," because she's getting upset about something, that's when she starts thinking, "I'm going to dump the guy."
Yeah, you just reminded me that there was someone once, who I wasn't attracted to for many reasons, and one of the things he kept saying was, "My greatest fear is that you'll leave me."
Now, what would have happened if, let's say, he did some other things that were right and that were attractive, and he says to you something like this: "I would hate it if you left me. I really would, because I would miss you. I would survive. I would find somebody else. I'd go off and have a great life. But I would be much happier if you were a part of that life."
Oh, I'd respect that.
Exactly. And respect is the key thing. It's not about, for guys, it's not about being liked. It's about being respected. A woman will not have sex with a guy that she likes. "I like him. He's such a good friend. He's just like my brother," because she likes him. Right. But a woman will have sex. With a man that she respects because she feels something towards him, even if at times she hates his guts.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and speaking of sex, you said it's the second greatest compliment a man can give a woman. So then, what is the first?
Sex is the second greatest compliment. The first greatest compliment that a man. Wait, are we talking a woman or a man here?
I don't know. I got this from your book. You said sex is the second greatest compliment a man can give a woman. So I'm asking you, well, then what is the first greatest compliment?
A long-term commitment.
Oh, okay. I agree with that.
A long-term commitment is where a man says to the woman, "Listen, I like you so much, I'm committing half of everything I am if we split up, and everything I have to keep you safe, to keep you provided for, to make sure that you're taken care of and that we can build a life together." When sex is just the second greatest compliment, because, hey, if a guy wants to have sex with you, I mean, that's a pretty neat compliment. But the number one compliment is not sex, it's commitment. That's why I always say women don't have problems getting sex. They can get complimented all the time in that regard. Mm-hmm. It's the commitment that she wants. And that's why it's the greatest compliment. When a man says, "I want to marry you," now if it's a low-quality guy, it's like getting the lasagna. You don't appreciate it from a low-quality guy because you can't trust in it. But when a high-value male says, "I want to marry you," that is the absolute best compliment a woman could ever get. Because even if it's not marriage but a commitment, it's because that commitment is something that where he's giving his whole self. Mm-hmm. And men are taught now not to give their whole selves unless they find a woman who's absolutely worth it.
Right, and that's probably why women cry whenever men propose.
Well, maybe it's the emotional...
the emotional range.
it's just this wave of emotion, and wow, look how much it meant to him.
Or maybe it's relief. It's like, phew, finally.
Well, if she has a high fear of abandonment and she sees commitment or marriage as a way of addressing that, then absolutely. In other cases, it could be a matter of, wow, now I know he really likes me because he's already promised to, not go off with other women in, different capacities.
Right. Well, you've done it again. You've helped me do another great show with your brilliant answers and your brilliant book.
Well, I look forward to being on your show again and being the new trendsetter, the trailblazer.
That's right, because I've only had 2 people on my show twice, you and Jake Cataldo, and he's Italian too. That's funny. It's like the Italian club here, and I didn't do it on purpose. It just happened. But yes, I did promise to have you on a 3rd time, and then you will have the record for being on the most number of times.
Woohoo! Woohoo! I'm excited. I can't wait.
Me too. We'll do that sometime in the fall. So again, the name of the book is The Emotional Needs Analysis Workbook. The website is franktalks.com. Of course, the author is Frank B. Kermit. And thank you so much for being on.
Lucia, I had a great time. I can't wait to do this again.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. There he goes, and now I have to go too. Thank you so much for listening. And a reminder, you can sign up for my weekly newsletter at my site, theartoflove.net. You can also read an excerpt from my book, Lucia's Lessons of Love, at lessonsoflove.net. And until next time, remember that love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.
You're listening to The Art of Love with your host, Lucia, right here on LA Talk Radio.